Let me start, of course, by recognizing that I'm very pleased to be with all of you here as we gather on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 7, and also acknowledge the Métis people of Alberta who share a very, very deep connection with this land. It is truly an honor for me to be here to speak with all of you today here in Calgary. So, you know, a lot's happened in the last month since I've maybe connected with some of you, and I want to unpack a little bit of that with you here today, to have a frank and an honest conversation. Now, obviously, the last time I was with all of you, I was Premier, and today I join you as the leader of Her Majesty's official opposition. And you know what? I must say, it takes a little getting used to. The other day, I stood in front of a door for 7 minutes waiting for someone to open it for me. Super weird. There are no more burly, better-dressed-than-me men escorting me to the bathroom, whispering into their watches that Honey Badger is on the move. And just this morning, on the way here, I came out of my front door and just hopped into the back of a random black Suburban parked on my street, which really confused my neighbor and upset me when he refused to drive me to Calgary today. Nonetheless, we're working through those bumps, and it is really an incredible pleasure for me to be here with all of you here. And I want to start, of course, by acknowledging all the major unions and dozens of affiliates in the room today. And I want to, well, I was going to begin by acknowledging President Gil McGowan and Secretary-Treasurer Siobhan Vipon, but I want to actually say, I guess I want to congratulate them on having probably the most backed into announcement of their re-election that I think we've ever seen. That was very amusing, I have to say. So congratulations to both of you on that successful bid. And I want to thank each and every one of you for the incredible work that all of you do every day to make Alberta a better place. And I also want to personally thank you for making your voices heard during the election that we just came through. Now, obviously, election night was a tough night. No one likes losing, but it's how you move forward that matters. And I can tell you that every member of my caucus is looking to the future. And I want to acknowledge that I'm joined here today by Kathleen Ganley, who is the MLA for Calgary Mountain View, Irfan Sabir, who's the MLA for Calgary McCall, as well as Thomas Dang, who is the MLA for Edmonton South. So maybe if you could just give a wave wherever you are. I see them waving. As well, we're also joined by 3 of our former caucus members who worked very hard for working people and all Albertans over the last 4 years. Our good friend Cam Westhead, our friend Mike Conley, and Shay Anderson, the man of the beard, who was featured in that fabulous video. And I also know that other MLAs have already been able to join you for parts of the convention today, including our newly elected MLA from Edmonton Whitemud, Raki Pancholi, Edmonton Manning MLA Heather Sweet, Edmonton Castle Downs MLA Nicole Goring, and Edmonton Mill Woods MLA Christina Gray. Now, you will all recall, yes, so they weren't, they're not here. I think they'll be okay but anyway, that's right. So you'll all recall, I think, a time when it was actually a team of just 4 New Democrats in the legislature. And while small at that time, I'd like to think that we were pretty mighty. And not only did we strongly object to the worst ideas of the old PCs, in some cases, we actually stopped them from happening. Actually, one of my proudest moments in politics before we took over the government was the time when we were able to coordinate a filibuster of the whole opposition that resulted in the PCs pulling a bill that was designed to take away public sector pensions. Now that, of course, was with 4 of us. Today, we have 24. So let me just say, my friends, as a former House Leader, I can tell you with absolute certainty and absolute clarity, we can filibuster forever. All night long if we have to, night after night after night. And let me tell you, if they start coming after workers' rights, that's exactly what you're going to see very, very quickly. So I'm truly proud of our team, and I know that this group is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and we are going to be the strongest opposition this province has ever seen. But to do so, as always has been the case, we will need your help. We will only ever be as strong as the people we represent and be as strong as the groups and the advocates who have our back. And I think that we've proven that in spades over the last 4 years with the number of progressive changes that not only did our government make, but that we made together in consultation and in collaboration with many people like yourselves in this room. Long overdue policy and legislation that actually made life better for the people of Alberta. I mean, that video was 5 minutes and there's still stuff missing. I was counting. But which is okay, because that actually is good. I was tearing up, and I probably couldn't have gone much longer through it. But I need to say, but before I talk more about some of our accomplishments, I know that now is actually also a time for reflection. And I know that all of us, or many of us in this room, have strong feelings about this campaign. And I know that there will be strong opinions about what we could have done differently and what we could have done better. And I want you to know that I believe those conversations are necessary because they are also important. They are lessons to be learned, and we cannot lose that opportunity. And I want to be clear that as we learn from this and as we talk about these things, I will be listening and we all will be listening. And I also know that there will be competing views of what happened, and I get that. Because the fact of the matter is we're all passionate. We're all passionate about our province, about our movement, and about our politics. We wouldn't be New Democrats, we wouldn't be advocates for working people if that wasn't the case. In fact, the odds are good. We may need buzzers. We may need timers to try to keep everybody to a strict 5 minutes. I expect several points of order throughout the course of this discussion, and undoubtedly someone will challenge the chair at least once. Quite honestly, it would not be a New Democrat conversation if that didn't happen. I'd almost be disappointed if we didn't see that happen. But friends, our passion is our strength, and that is exactly what we need to go forward. Because we know that Albertans want a real vision for their future and for their families' future. One where we take real ownership of our resources, where we diversify and create jobs at home, not ship them overseas. Where working parents can get back into the workforce without facing sky-high childcare costs. Where we have a stronger public health care and better support for our kids in our classrooms. And friends, where we have a province with a premier who is actually fighting for you. And we have to continue to do that. We have to continue to work every day to show how our vision is right for this province. And as I said on election night, we change politics in Alberta. And we're going to continue changing politics in Alberta, make no mistake. And we're going to need you to help us to do that and to be successful. So we must listen to each other, hear opinions, engage respectfully, and in a more thorough way. But we can't go backwards. How we move forward matters a great deal. We need to have this conversation with our eyes cast on the future. If we spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror, we will miss the road ahead of us. And if we play the blame game, we will miss the real game. This is a chance, and it will be a chance, to come together, to learn from each other, and get ready to form a stronger and better government 4 years from now, because, friends, make no mistake, we can and we will form government again in this province. Fact of the matter, it's very simple. We have to. We have to form government again in this province. You know, making life better, it was more than a slogan for us. It was the reason we got out of bed each and every morning. And Albertans now know what that focus looks like. And despite the story that some Conservatives will like to tell, we know our history and we know our legacy. So let me talk just a little bit about that for a moment. In 2015, Albertans chose a government focused on them, on making life better for workers and their families. They chose a government that focused on creating good jobs, diversifying the economy, and protecting the health and education they relied on. They chose change, and we worked hard to be that change, to show Albertans that there is another way of governing, one that cuts the drama and ups the honesty, one that cares about regular families and the day-to-day problems that they face, one that puts hard-working Albertans first. And now it's no secret that when we were elected as a first-time government, we did so in the face of historically tough economic times. And we knew even then that we needed to work to diversify our economy after decades of inaction, and that starting that work was the only way to create good, long-term, sustainable jobs for Albertans. With families struggling, we actually increased supports. We did more to help people support themselves and their loved ones. And it was during these tough times that Albertans needed a government that had their back, and so that's what we gave them. We knew that adding to the troubles that Albertans face by making deep cuts was not the solution. And we chose not to respond to layoffs with more layoffs. And I am proud of that decision. I'm proud that we invested in people. I'm proud that we built new roads, schools, and hospitals, and that we froze tuition for students. I'm proud that we made childcare more affordable for parents and fed 33,000 hungry kids at school each day and every day across this province. I am proud that we formed the first ever gender-balanced cabinet focused on advancing women's issues and protecting women's rights. And most of all, I'm proud of what we did for workers. I'm proud that we now have labor laws that ensure our workers get the same or more benefits as every other Canadian, that respect the charter-protected rights of workers to organize and collectively bargain, a workers' compensation system that provides better rights and recognizes actual workplace hazards, a health and safety system that ensures workers feel protected and confident to stand up and say, "That's not safe." And friends, I am so damn proud that no one who wakes up and goes to work in Alberta today will make less than $15 an hour as a minimum wage. Because despite the rhetoric that we heard from the other side, there are 80,000 more Albertans working today than there were at the height of the recession. And there are more Albertans working today than there were when we first got elected. Yes, there is more to do, but we laid out a path and a plan that was working. So I am proud, and you should be too. So I'm going to ask your help with something that's very important. We can't let Albertans forget about these things. We can't let Mr. Kenney and his friends rewrite our history. Because, make no mistake, they're already trying. And on the topic of Conservative history, let's take a look at their first week. Against all advice, he signed into law Bill 12, rather than use it strategically. He is giving the courts time to shoot it down. In other words, he is letting them disarm the missile while it's sitting on the launch pad, all in the interest of making threats and generating headlines. You know, Alberta is this close to getting a pipeline, and Mr. Kenney is putting this project in danger. This is the start of a pattern of reckless behavior that will certainly benefit lawyers. And I have nothing against lawyers, as you know, but it doesn't benefit everyday Albertans. If Mr. Kenney is allowed to treat the pipeline like a political football, which is exactly what he's doing right now, then all it will ever be is a political football. And that is not what Albertans deserve. If we want the pipeline, we need to keep bringing Canadians with us, not turning them against us. And that's what Mr. Kenney is risking. He's also sent up already false flags on our finances, preparing an excuse to proceed with cuts to the programs and services that regular families rely on, just to cover up for the actual hole that he plans to blow in the budget when he gives a massive $4.5 billion corporate tax cut to people who don't even ask for it, one that will cost each and every one of us in our healthcare, our education, and our infrastructure. He also continues to avoid any accountability. This week, I called for a special prosecutor to be appointed because for the first time in Alberta's history, and quite frankly, the history of most any other province in the country, we have a premier and an attorney general whose leadership campaigns are closely linked to matters under police investigation. Fake emails, shady donations, electoral fraud. This is a sorry state of affairs, and quite frankly, their failure to appoint a special prosecutor to clean up the process, to keep the system clean, demonstrates incredibly bad judgment very early on. Now, speaking of bad judgment, we also have a person with a lifetime of anti-LGBTQ rhetoric in charge of GSAs in our schools. Now, during the campaign, Mr. Kenney routinely dismissed these kids and said, "No one cares." Well, I would say that he should tell that to the thousands of kids who walked out of class yesterday in support. Those kids, they walked out of class yesterday in support of their friends, in support of their safe spaces, in support of their own human rights. And I'm proud to be able to quote actually one of our newest cabinet ministers, next time, one of our newest caucus members, Janice Irwin. She said, in talking about those kids, she said, "This is a kind, committed, and courageous generation." She said, "If you're worried about young people, don't be. Worry instead about the consequences of ignoring their voices." My commitment to you is we will not ignore their voices. We will continue to advocate for an Alberta that hears their voices and thinks about their future, because that's what good government looks like. And you know what? Mr. Kenney's first few bills, well, if they're written as advertised, they will be a disaster for working people. A plan to gut farm worker protections, careful rules that actually ultimately earned the support of the majority of agricultural producers, rules that resulted in thousands of workers getting coverage, receiving income while they recovered from injuries that they would not have received otherwise. That's what happens through Bill 6, and that's what he wants to roll back. He wants to slash overtime pay and cut the minimum wage for young workers. And he wants a rollback of the climate leadership plan that secured our province federal approval of a pipeline, but also, quite frankly, created jobs and generated the most significant reduction of greenhouse gases in the history of our country. And just yesterday, Saskatchewan learned that the federal government has a right to impose their own plan. Now, if Mr. Kenney has his way, Alberta is opening itself up to Ottawa's plan. Great. That's what we were all looking for, having Ottawa come in and tell us what to do about climate change. That's his plan. So again, I'd urge Mr. Kenney to reconsider that, because you know what? Climate change is real. And we have a responsibility to take action in a way that gets the job done, but also supports working people. Because there are good mortgage-paying jobs in clean tech, in energy efficiency, and in renewable energy, as well as in a responsibly managed, sustainable, non-renewable energy sector, and that is exactly what we were working towards, and that's exactly what Mr. Kenney is putting at risk. So that's why we laid the groundwork for what we could have gone forward with the Climate Leadership Plan and our Made in Alberta plan, and to show Albertans what an unprecedented investment in energy diversification looks like. And I want to thank Gil for the work that he did on that as well, because he played a big part. But my point is just this: Mr. Kenney's plan is to do away with this progress. And none of that will actually help working people. None of that will actually create jobs. None of that will protect us from the hazards and the risks associated with unfettered climate change. And when the dust settles, I believe that Albertans will see none of this reflects the values that we all share as Albertans. So, what do we do about it? Do we wallow? Do we scream and shout? Do we get angry or bitter? Do we wrap ourselves in blankets, lay on the couch, and start Game of Thrones again from season 1? I'm going to go out on a limb and say there are a couple people out there doing that. But as tempting as that is, I say no. I say we get up, we roll up our sleeves, we take a stand, and we fight for what we believe in. I say we come together because our new opposition is going to fight for what's right each and every day. And that's what Albertans will see. An opposition that works only for them. One that won't only oppose, but will also propose. And we will work to find common ground with the government on issues that we can work together on, because that's what Albertans deserve. But where we can't, we won't. We will stand up and we will fight for what we believe in. And we are going to fight to protect our public services for the benefit of everyday people. We are going to stand up for better schools and for our child's education and for their safety inside those schools. And we are going to make sure that our loved ones' public health care stays public exactly where it belongs. We are going to demand better value out of the resources we own with more upgrading and refining at home, and we are going to take climate change seriously and keep fighting for a pipeline. And friends, if they come after the hard-working people of this province, we will give them a fight that they will never forget. Because you know what? We are about people. Whether you're a shop steward or a server, whether you're a student or an entrepreneur, whether you're a conservationist or a volunteer at the local library, we will be your voice. We will bring people together. If Mr. Kenney wants to spend 4 years burning bridges, we will spend 4 years building them. We will fight for an Alberta that works for all Albertans, one that supports working people, one where there's economic prosperity for everyone, not just those at the top. We stand with all Albertans because you know what? Something that I know very deeply to my core is this. We are always at our best when we have each other's backs. So let's do that. Let's have each other's backs and let's show them. Let's show them our best. So thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for everything over the last 4 years. Thank you, everyone.